Imagine this. A brand new Boeing airplane takes to the skies. Sleek and modern, promised to be safer and more fuel efficient than ever. Airlines love it. Passengers have no reason to worry. It's late 2018, and Boeing's 737 MAX is supposed to be the future of flying. But what almost no one knows is that buried deep in its software is a hidden system. One that can quietly take control of the plane. A system that, if it fails, could send the aircraft into a deadly dive without the pilot's full understanding of why. Just months after the MAX begins flying, two terrible crashes will kill hundreds. Boeing, one of the most trusted names in aviation, will face lawsuits, investigations, and a storm of global outrage. How did it happen? How could the world's biggest aircraft maker let this slip through? This is the story of the Boeing 737 MAX crisis, a tale of technology, shortcuts, and the devastating cost of cutting corners. To understand how things went wrong, we need to look at what came before. For decades, the Boeing 737 was the workhorse of the skies. Since the late 1960s, it had flown billions of passengers safely around the world. It was reliable, trusted, and simple for pilots to use. But by the early 2010s, Boeing faced a problem. Its rival, Airbus, had launched a new version of its A320 with better fuel efficiency. Airlines loved it, and Boeing was losing ground. So they rushed to respond. Instead of designing a brand new plane from scratch, Boeing decided to update the 737 again. They called it the 737 MAX. It had bigger, more efficient engines to save fuel, but those engines didn't quite fit the old design. They were too large and had to be placed further forward and higher on the wings. This small change shifted the way the plane flew, and that's where trouble began. To help fix this change in the plane's balance, Boeing added a new software called MCAS, short for Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. Sounds complicated, but here's the simple version. MCAS was designed to automatically push the nose of the plane down if the system thought the plane was climbing too steeply and could stall, meaning it might lose lift and fall from the sky. But here's the catch. Pilots weren't clearly told that this system even existed. It wasn't mentioned in many training manuals. Boeing believed it was better to keep training simple, so that airlines wouldn't have to pay extra to retrain pilots on expensive flight simulators. And MCAS relied on just one sensor on the outside of the plane to tell if the nose was too high. The sensor is called an angle of attack sensor. It simply measures how the air is flowing over the wings. But what happens if the sensor gives wrong data? October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 takes off from Jakarta, Indonesia. Just minutes into the flight, the pilots notice something is wrong. The plane's nose keeps tipping down unexpectedly. They pull back on the controls, fighting to climb, but the nose dips again, over and over. They don't realize that MCAS is the one pushing the plane down. The system thinks the plane is climbing too steeply, but it's not. The sensor is broken, feeding wrong data into the system. The pilots try everything they can, but they're overwhelmed. In just 12 minutes, the plane slams into the Java Sea. All 189 people on board are killed. At first, people assume it's a one-time tragedy, maybe a sensor issue or pilot error. But behind the scenes, Boeing knows MCAS was involved. And the worst part? They still don't ground the plane. After the Lion Air crash, Boeing issues a safety notice. It tells pilots how to disable MCAS in case it ever activates by mistake. But they still don't explain what MCAS really is or how dangerous it can be. They don't recommend simulator training. They don't ground the MAX. The company insists it's safe to fly. Some pilots start raising red flags. Internal reports show that pilots in the US had experienced similar nose dip issues, but managed to recover. They report that it felt like the plane was fighting them. Meanwhile, Boeing continues selling the MAX around the world. It becomes the fastest selling jet in the company's history. But the countdown to the next disaster has already begun. March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 takes off from Addis Ababa. It's another 737 MAX. Like before, the plane starts behaving erratically just minutes into the flight. Again, MCAS activates based on faulty sensor data. Again, the pilots fight to control the aircraft. This time, they know about MCAS, but the pressure is intense. Altitude is dropping, warnings are flashing. They try to follow Boeing's instructions, but it's not enough. 6 minutes after takeoff, the plane crashes into a field. 157 lives are lost. 2 deadly crashes. 2 brand new planes. Same system, same flaw. Now, the world takes notice. This time, there's no ignoring it. Country after country grounds the 737 MAX. China is first, then Europe, Canada, Australia, and finally, after mounting public pressure, the United States grounds the aircraft too. Within days, the entire 737 MAX fleet is grounded worldwide. Airlines cancel flights, passengers panic, families demand answers. Boeing is in full damage control, but the truth is out. Both crashes were caused by the same problem, a system pilots barely knew about, triggered by a single sensor, had taken control of the aircraft, with deadly results. Investigators dig deep. What they find is troubling. Internal emails from Boeing show employees joking about the MAX. One message says, "This airplane is designed by clowns." Another says, "I wouldn't let my family fly on a MAX." Documents reveal how Boeing pushed to keep pilot training minimal to make the plane cheaper for airlines. And the FAA, the U.S. aviation regulator, allowed Boeing to self-certify many parts of the aircraft during development. Essentially, Boeing was checking its own homework. The pressure to beat Airbus had caused something dangerous, a race to deliver at any cost. Around the world, families mourn. Children, parents, friends, gone. Victims from over 30 countries. Many of them were headed home, on vacation or starting new jobs, all gone in minutes. At press conferences, their families hold up photos, some breaking down in tears, others demand justice. They don't want apologies, they want the truth. The crashes just weren't accidents, they were preventable, and the world is watching. Boeing CEO at the time, Dennis Muilenburg, testifies before Congress. Lawmakers demand answers. Why was MCAS hidden? Why was it allowed to rely on just one sensor? Why weren't pilots trained? Under intense pressure, Muilenburg is forced out. Boeing brings in new leadership to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, lawsuits pile up. Boeing sets aside billions of dollars for legal claims, airline compensation, and fixing the MAX. The once proud company has fallen hard, and now it must prove it can rise again. Boeing begins a massive effort to rebuild trust. They update the MCAS. Now it uses 2 sensors instead of 1. It can't push the nose down repeatedly. Pilots can override it more easily. Training is improved. Pilots now learn exactly how MCAS works and how to respond if something goes wrong. Flight simulators are required again. Regulators, once trusting, now inspect every detail. The FAA demands full test flights. Other countries like Canada and Europe run their own reviews. Boeing is no longer in charge of the timeline. It takes 20 months to get the plane approved to fly again. In late 2020, the FAA officially clears the MAX to fly again under strict new rules. Airlines begin reintroducing the aircraft slowly. Some pilots post videos online showing how the updated systems work. They explain everything clearly to regain passenger trust. Still, some travelers refuse to board the MAX. Others are willing, trusting the work done since the crashes. Boeing knows it may take years to rebuild its name, but it starts with one safe flight at a time. The 730 MAX crisis wasn't just a technical failure. It was a human one, a rush to complete, a failure to listen, a system where safety took a back seat to sales. The industry learns painful lessons. Regulators around the world change how they certify planes. Pilots demand more training and transparency. And passengers, more than ever, want to know what's flying them across the sky. The crisis cost Boeing billions, but more importantly, it cost 346 lives. The Boeing 737 MAX is flying again, safer, smarter, and with more eyes watching than ever before. But the story isn't just about one plane. It's about the choices companies make and how cutting small corners can lead to the biggest disasters. Because in aviation, there are no second chances. And so every time we look out the window at cruising altitude, we trust that the lessons of the MAX weren't forgotten, but learned the hard way. Like, subscribe, and share for more stories waiting to be deciphered.